Hey guys, today we're counting down the top 15 most unusual jobs in the world that you really wouldn't believe actually exist. Let's start with number 15, the professional cuddler. A professional cuddler makes a living giving clients hugs, and believe it or not, people travel from all over the globe to receive cuddle therapy. Often described as far less intimate than a massage and as helping people from all walks of life. Well, despite criticism, cuddling is scientifically proven to release happy hormones like dopamine, and many clients sign up for the emotional support that they lack at home. The 2-hour hugging sessions vary depending on what the client wants, with some seeking emotional hugs, others talking more, and some wanting to sit at opposite ends of the sofa with our legs and feet entwined. Well, according to the number of small cuddle therapists out there, while cuddle therapy might not be widely accepted in society, it is far less intimate than other activities that are seen as normal. Many cuddle therapists have a background in CBT therapy or counseling. Training courses in cuddle therapy have been available for over a decade, so therapy sessions often follow a similar pattern. Your therapist will give you a hug on the doorstep when you arrive, then invite you in and ask you to relax. This is followed by an initial chat about what brought you there, and the therapist will then put on some ambient music and you'll have a cuddle on their cuddle sofa. According to professionals, people who come in for a cuddle range from those who have moved away from home for the first time and just want a mom hug to people in their 80s. Many clients, however, are caregivers who are also busy looking after others and providing support that they don't receive it themselves. Setting clear boundaries prior to meeting is essential, but therapists generally report that the clients they welcome into their homes have been respectful. These therapists focus on a holistic approach to treating people, and there's also neuroscience behind this cuddling. Physical touch activates the brain's orbitofrontal cortex, and cuddling releases oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. I'm gonna have to get me a cuddle therapist. Number 14, a rodeo clown. So we've all seen rodeos, right? They generally feature some completely insane person in a cowboy hat riding around on the back of a raging bull, which is doing its best to throw them off and break as many bones as possible. Not to mention gouging their flesh with those large and pointy horns. What you might not have seen, however, are the brave, even more insane individuals who run into the arena after the bull has thrown the rider and distract it from causing any further injury. And if that doesn't sound crazy enough, they also dress as clowns. Entertaining the crowd is part of the job, of course, but it's not just about being quick and daring enough to jump out of the way of a charging bull. You also need to be an expert in handling them. Rodeo clowns date back to the beginnings of competitive rodeo in the early 1900s, when promoters hired cowboys to entertain the crowd between events, or if the competition was delayed. These individuals started wearing oversized, baggy clothing and eventually developed a more outlandish gear. When bull riding competitions began using ill-tempered Brahma bulls in the 1920s, the need for someone to distract the bull from fallen riders fell to the rodeo clown. By the late 1970s, the comedy aspect of clown work, as opposed to the protection of rodeo athletes, began to disappear in some parts of the US. But in some rodeos, they're still very much part of the show, although you need to be okay with not earning a lot of money to do such life-threatening work. Serious injury and death are not uncommon, so maybe a pay rise wouldn't be out of the question. Underwater welder. Welding underwater? Is that even possible? Well, yep, and not only possible, but incredibly difficult. Underwater welding is an exceptionally challenging and demanding profession that requires a unique set of skills, physical endurance, and mental resilience. As the name suggests, underwater welders perform welding tasks in the ocean, facing a multitude of hazards and difficulties that make their job extremely hard. One of the primary challenges of this welding is the hostile underwater environment itself. Working at great depths exposes these welders to high water pressure, extreme temperatures, and reduced visibility. The immense pressure exerted by the water can have severe physiological effects on the human body, such as nitrogen narcosis and decompression sickness. Additionally, working in cold water can cause hypothermia, adding another layer of risk to the job. The limited visibility underwater makes it challenging, too, to assess the quality of the welds and identify any potential defects, requiring exceptional attention to detail. The risk of electric shock, equipment failure, and the potential for entanglement in underwater hazards are constant concerns. They must also adhere to a strict safety protocol and be trained in emergency procedures, including proper communication and evacuation in case of an emergency. The weight of the diving gear, too, coupled with the resistance of the water, requires substantial physical strength and endurance. They must also have excellent buoyancy control and be able to maneuver with precision in challenging underwater environments. So yeah, that's quite a resume before you even start your first day. Count me out on that job. Number 11, a line stander. A line stander, queue stander, line sitter, or queue professional is a person who takes a position in a queue in place of another, often for payment. This informal occupation arose out of the necessity to endure long wait times in queues. Line sitting is frequently a paid endeavor, with companies recruiting people, sometimes homeless individuals, to sit in lines for a price. In some cases, people can make sufficient money to sit in line professionally. Occasionally, people also choose to sit in line for non-monetary purposes, such as gaining media attention at major events. The practice of line sitting has drawn academic research. A study conducted by Georgetown University and Johns Hopkins University uses queuing theory and game theory to examine the economic and operational dynamics of line sitting. The researchers contrast line sitting with the commonly used pay-for-priority scheme, showing why line sitting can be a win-win for service providers and customers. In Poland, this occupation was reported as a neologism during the early 1980s, and by the end of the communist regime, there were several shortages of consumer goods. With the transition to a market economy, shortages gradually diminished, but the business opportunities for line standers remained. A Polish professional line stander, Tadeusz Żak, has said that his profession requires certain personality traits: honesty, credibility, activity, persistence, and perseverance. He once stood in line for 40 hours, specializing in lines at hospitals for registration to high demand and rare specialists. In the U.S., the practice of line standing or seat holding is a service provided in Washington, D.C. to lobbyists, corporate legislative offices, nonprofit organizations, lawyers, and others interested in matters being debated or bills being marked up by the United States House of Representatives or Senate. The line standing company sends someone up to Capitol Hill to stand in line well in advance of the hearing or markup, helping the client gain entry into the hearing room with a good seat in the visitors gallery. This practice has reportedly existed for 20 years, but attracted media attention in March of 2012, during the Supreme Court hearings on the Affordable Care Act, when professional line standers stood there for 4 days. Number 10. A golf ball diver. So, golf ball divers are professional recyclers. They retrieve golf balls, which are then cleaned, repackaged, and resold. Before beginning work at a golf course, they meet formally with its owner or manager to agree on the terms of the job. For example, the course charges the diver a fee for the opportunity to harvest the ponds. The course representative and the diver need to negotiate the price and discuss whether that fee will be paid with money in received golf balls or a combination of both. Typical golf courses have between 4 to 12 ponds. Divers spend 8 to 10 hours a day harvesting these ponds, and they may need multiple days to finish a job. Depending on the size of each pond, though, divers recover balls with the help of a dive crew or a roller. Using a roller is faster than a dive crew, but dive crews are more thorough. A dive crew usually includes about 3 people, equipped with standard scuba gear. 2 divers enter the pond and feel for balls by hand, and the water's so black and murky in there that they have to dive by feel. The divers then load the balls into baskets and pass them on to the remaining crew member on land. That crew member also ensures the diver's safety and helps direct them so they can comb the entire pond. 2-person dive crews may work with a roller, which consists of metal discs on wheels. The roller's metal grooves grab at the balls as it moves through the water, and crew members stand on the ground at opposite ends of the pond and guide the roller by pulling it on a wire connected to it. If the roller gets stuck in the mud or rocks, one of the crew members goes underwater to free it. After they've combed the pond, crew members pull the roller to the ground and pop out the golf balls. Diving for golf balls may sound more like play than work, but there are several factors aspiring divers should consider. For example, finding steady work can be difficult. Golf ball divers generally work in adverse conditions in the pond, and a lot of divers can't handle the low visibility. Golf ball divers work in crews for safety reasons. They may face danger from wildlife, such as alligators, and from objects hidden underwater. Scuba equipment is heavy too, so obstacles such as fishing lines could trap and drown the divers. Number 9. Smoke jumper. Smoke jumpers. They are elite firefighters who parachute into remote and rugged areas to combat wildfires, facing some of the most challenging and dangerous conditions imaginable. It is certainly more unusual than a desk job. The job of a smoke jumper is exceptionally hard due to the physical demands, hazardous nature of the work, and mental and emotional stress that they have to endure. They need exceptional fitness, strength, and stamina to endure grueling tasks associated with firefighting, including carrying heavy gear, hiking through difficult terrains, and working in extreme weather. Smoke jumpers often work long hours, battling intense heat and smoke while performing physically strenuous activities to contain and extinguish wildfires. The risk of injury or death from falling trees, debris, or burns is a constant threat. As a result, they need extensive training to acquire the necessary skills to assess risks, navigate challenging landscapes, and make critical decisions in high-pressure situations. Moreover, smoke jumpers must be mentally and emotionally resilient. They work in high-stress environments where split-second decisions can mean a difference between life and death. They must remain calm and focused while facing intense heat, smoke, and the threat of fire rapidly spreading. The mental and emotional toll of witnessing the destruction caused by wildfires, the loss of property, and the impact on communities is significant for these folks. Number 8. A train pusher. So, a train pusher is a worker who pushes people onto mass transportation vehicles at crowded stops during rush hours. A role with a long history in Japan. When pushers were first introduced at Shinjuku Station, they were called passenger arrangement staff and were largely made up of students working part-time. Currently, station staff and part-time workers fill these roles during morning rush hours on many lines. During the run-up to the 1964 Summer Olympics in Tokyo, a special issue of Life magazine described a photograph by Brian Brake showing the Tokyo commuter trains where riders are squashed aboard by white-gloved official pushers. Well, in 1975, Oshiya packed commuters onto rush-hour trains that were filled to an average of 221% of their design capacity. If any other place in the world is likely to have train pushers, it would have to be New York City. New York City conductors are well known for using the phrase "step lively" to exhort passengers to clear space by the doors of streetcars and subway cars during the early 20th century, dating back to the opening of the subway in 1904. A New York Times article from August of 1918 mentions subway guards and police directing and pushing crowds onto trains operating along the new 42nd Street shuttle service between Times Square and Grand Central. By the 1920s, pushers in the New York City subway were known worldwide, but were not well liked due to their reputation as sardine packers. New York City subway pushers are depicted in the 1941 biographical movie Sergeant York. George Tobias plays the character Pusher Ross, a soldier from New York City who explains his nickname to Alvin York. He got it because he pushes passengers onto crowded subway cars during rush hours. The story takes place during World War I, establishing that Pusher was a subway pusher in New York City prior to 1918. Additionally, in the Bugs Bunny cartoon Hurdy-Gurdy Hare, Bugs dons a conductor cap and pushes a gorilla while saying, "Push in, plenty of room in the center of the car." He pauses to tell the audience, "I used to work on the shuttle from Times Square to Grand Central."